Since 1901, the Nobel Prize for Literature has been awarded to 120 writers from all around the world. Some of the earliest have long been forgotten, but a few of them are still read today. In 1912, Gerhart Hauptmann, also of Germany, won the Nobel Prize. Another German winner in this era when, despite all the British mockery, despite all the British rewriting of history after World War One, German culture was really the high point, so to speak, of European civilization, of Western civilization, a leading light of the world. But Hauptmann's career after the prize represented and was tainted by the tragedy of German nationalism and the cowardice of the famed, celebrated artist. Hauptmann himself seemed to have a premonition of the dangerous moral crisis of unusual men in his 1911 novel Atlantis, which is about a disaster on a cruise ship, which in itself was a strange premonition of the disaster, the sinking of the Titanic, which occurred the next year in 1912. Hauptmann established his reputation as a playwright who wrote naturalist plays. His 1889 play Before Sunrise caused a famous scandal in German theatre because of its depictions of alcoholism and sexuality. And you can actually watch a glimpse of the 2019 German performance play in the links below. Hauptmann became known as a social democratic poet, including advocating then progressive social reform ideas like legal off of temperance, but in Hauptmann's case also eugenics. He was a founding member of the eugenics organisation, the German Society for Racial Hygiene, in 1905, and although the term sounds very much like, and is very much like 1930s Germany, eugenics was embraced by many people across the political spectrum, progressive and conservative, in the first half of the 20th century. Before Sunrise was a portrayal of hereditary alcoholism, one of the social evils that progressive eugenicists like Hauptmann sought to get rid of. The German Kaiser before 1914 really didn't like this social democratic poet, much thought of him as something of a nuisance that he'd like to silence a little bit. But when the war came in August 1914, the First World War, Hauptmann, like many people across Europe in that time, in Australia at that time, submitted to the wave of fervour for a war to defend their nation, their empire, their civilization. He signed a famous letter of support from German intellectuals for the national cause in World War One. And though it might seem odd to see these intellectuals submit to such crowd sentiment, we've all witnessed similar crazes many times since. Defeat in the war, however, disillusioned him. In 1918, he fled to a pacifist colony and then became a supporter of the Weimar Republic. But in Germany in the 1920s, the celebrated Weimar years, which are so brilliantly depicted in the television series Babylon Berlin, Hauptmann, the Nobel laureate, had become rather spoiled by success. He lived the high life on his fame and his wealth, but he produced little work of merit. He wrote mediocre scripts for films and serials and became something of a hack. Yet the Nobel Prize, had cemented his reputation in the transatlantic American Anglo world as a representative of German literature. The greats of German literature at the time, however, were not fooled. Thomas Mann, who would later win a Nobel Prize, pilloried Hauptmann in a character who appeared in his novel The Magic Mountain, and the great Marxist modernist critic Georgi Lukács described him as the representative poet of bourgeois Germany. Not a compliment in Lukács' mind. Indeed, in 1933, Hauptmann signed the loyalty oath to the then German regime, and there were reports that he applied to join the Nazi Party. He would certainly later be celebrated by the Nazis and was indeed put on a list of protected artists who were exempt from the military mobilization in the latter years of the war. He was captured, I guess, by the Soviet Union, who were in the course of liberating Europe from the Nazis in 1945, overthrowing the Nazi regime. And in a part of what was then Germany, Silesia, which would later become part of Poland. The Soviet authorities didn't allow him to leave this new state, and he died a tragic figure consumed by his own and his culture's death wish. Indeed, he had witnessed, if at a safe distance, the firebombing of Dresden. Hauptmann's story is a story of the cowardice of writers, the ruin of great talent, and the tragedy of national imperialism. It's a sad story,